Shalom and welcome. Today we are going to talk about the New Covenant. Many people believe what their churches and denominational traditions have taught them about the New Covenant without asking any questions. But this can lead us to falsehood. So it's very important for us to seek out the truth from the Word of Yahuah for ourselves, rather than believing every word we are told. Because when we read the Scripture without any preconceived beliefs and allow the Ruach to teach us the truth, we begin to realize that some of the interpretations that have been adopted by modern-day religion differ from the biblical and Hebraic understanding, causing confusion. This has led to error, and in some cases outright contradiction of what Yahuah himself declared through his prophets. My purpose today is not to condemn anyone, but to hold up the light of the Word of Yahuah, to expose where human tradition has clouded the truth, and to call us back into covenant faithfulness through Yahusha. So let's walk through some of the key misunderstandings that are taught today, and measure them against the eternal word of Yahuah. One of the most common teachings is that the law of Moses has been completely abolished, that the Sabbath, the feasts, the dietary instructions, all of it has been nailed to the cross and is no longer relevant. But let's read the word of Yahuah in Jeremiah 31. Behold, the days come, says Yahuah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. I will put my Torah in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And Ezekiel 36 says, A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you, and I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. These verses show us that the Torah has not been erased. It has been relocated from the stone tablets into the very hearts of Yahuwah's people. Yahusha told us in Matthew 5, Do not think that I have come to abolish the Torah or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. The word fulfill is the Greek word plerou. It means to bring to fullness, to embody completely. It does not mean to annul. Yahusha was the living Torah, walking in perfect obedience, and he calls his followers to live that same life of obedience that he taught us. Another belief that many churches teach is that the New Covenant is only about spiritual blessings in heaven, disconnected from Israel's promises. But Jeremiah 31 is clear. The New Covenant was promised to the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. In Romans 11, Paul warns the Gentiles not to boast because they are only branches grafted into the olive tree of Israel. The New Covenant does not erase Israel. It grafts the nations into Israel's covenant blessings. Isaiah 2, It shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahuwah's house shall be established in the tops of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. Micah 4, In the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahuwah shall be established in the tops of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Ezekiel 37, My tabernacle shall be with them. I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the nations shall know that I, Yahuah, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forever. All these prophecies speak of a future restoration, when Yahuwah will reign from Zion, and the nations will flow to his mountain, and that the new covenant is not only spiritual, it's also physical, rooted in promises yet to be fulfilled in the land and among the people. Another belief that many people have been taught is that salvation under the new covenant is faith alone, reducing it to mere mental assent. They have been taught that if they say a prayer and believe in their heart, that they will be saved forever regardless of how they live. But James 2 says, Faith without works is dead. Abraham was justified not by faith alone, but by faith that acted in obedience. Ezekiel 36 says that Yahuwah will empower his people to walk in his statutes and to keep his judgments, and to do them. And Yahusha commands us in Matthew 28 to teach the nations everything he has commanded us. True covenant faith is living a life of obedience to Yahuwah's Torah, because we love him and we want to do that which is well-pleasing to him. Another misunderstanding is supersessionism, the idea that the church has replaced Israel in Yahuwah's plan. But Paul tells us in Romans 11, has Yahuwah cast away his people? Certainly not. He goes on to say that Israel's calling and election are irrevocable. Jeremiah 31 says that as long as the sun, moon, and stars remain, Israel will remain a nation before Yahuwah. The new covenant does not replace Israel. It restores Israel and extends covenant blessing to the nations through Yahusha. And some people teach that the law of Christ is something entirely new, divorced from Moses. But Yahusha himself taught the Torah with greater clarity and depth. In Matthew, he magnifies the commandments, moving from outward obedience to inward heart transformation. John 14 says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Yahusha's commands are not different from Yahuwah's Torah. They are the Torah brought to fullness in the sight of men. And finally, many groups have fallen into antinomianism, the teaching that the Torah has no role in the believer's life. But 1 John 3 says, "Whosoever commits sin transgresses also the Torah, for sin is the transgression of the Torah." This verse defines sin as transgression of the Torah. And Paul says in Romans 3, "Do we then make void the Torah through faith? Certainly not. On the contrary, we establish the Torah." The Torah remains holy, just, and good. Under the New Covenant, the Torah is not abolished. It is written inside of us by the Ruach HaKodesh. Brothers and sisters, we must see that modern religious traditions often emphasize grace alone in a way that nullifies the very standards of Yahuwah. The New Covenant is not a lawless covenant. It is a covenant of transformation, where the Torah moves from stone to the heart, where Israel is restored and the nations are grafted in, and where faith produces obedience and Yahusha reigns as the living word. To teach otherwise creates confusion. It redefines sin and robs the covenant of its power. But when we return to the Hebraic understanding, we see that Yahuwah writes his Torah on our hearts so we can love him, walk in his ways, and be his people forever. So let us reject the errors of man-made religion and the idea that the Torah is abolished, that Israel is replaced, that faith is empty words without obedience. Let us instead embrace the fullness of the New Covenant as Yahuwah declared it, the Torah written on our hearts, empowered by the Spirit, lived out in love through Yahusha. As Hebrews 10 reminds us, "This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, says Yahuwah. I will put my Torah in their hearts, and in their minds will I write them." This is the covenant we are called to live in today. So let's walk in it faithfully until the day Yahusha returns and establishes the kingdom in its fullness. Shalom.